right, guys, we're gonna go over how to use this RV. This one is fantastic. Just first off, it is a very long RV, so just remember to be careful where you're driving. You shouldn't be off-roading or anything like that with this trailer. You do have your propane tanks here. You do have a electric jack, up and down button, and then this is a light button. Hopefully you never need it, but the batteries are located right behind the propane tank, and then there is a battery disconnect switch back there as well. As we come around, you do have a large storage pass-through. This goes all the way underneath the RV, all the way to the other side. You can put a lot of gear in there, which is really nice. These do have the electric stabilizers. These are not levelers, they just stabilize the RV, so when you're walking inside, it doesn't wobble. First off, you just push it down, it's gonna touch the ground. A lot of times, one will come down first. There's two legs. One will come down first, and then once that hits the ground, the other one will come down. And the same thing when you put them up, one might come up first and then the other one. So always double check before driving away. You're gonna look underneath the RV, make sure those jacks are completely up. The last thing you wanna do is pull out, and then you just realize you just bent one of these electric jacks. They can get a little expensive, so just be careful with that. Awnings. It's a large awning. Just remember, any wind, rain, any inclement weather, you want to have this guy closed. We always recommend you do not have it open unless you're literally sitting underneath it. If you walk away for 5 or 10 minutes, I guarantee you that's when the wind's going to come and rip it right off. So just be careful. We always recommend, you don't go to bed with it out. Absolutely not. You always want to close it, all that kind of stuff. So just be careful. This right here is your handrail. You lift it up and you're going to spin it and it'll lock it down. We always recommend when you're traveling you actually close it against the door. That way the wind doesn't pop your door open on you or anything. We also want to talk about this door handle. A lot of times people call and they think the door's locked, they can't get in. There's a giant rubber seal that goes all the way around the door. So what you want to do is you want to take your hand and you're actually going to push right on this area right here, push it in, pull the latch, and then it opens right up. Really easy. We're going to talk about how to use the stairs. First off, you want to make sure this door is completely open as far as it can go. And then there's a little lever. You're going to pull that and this rotates down. Each leg is adjustable independently. There's a little lever right here and you can just push that in and then you can adjust the leg however you need it. So in case you're on uneven ground or something, it'll sit down properly. It just folds down just like this. One thing we want to talk about though is right here and right here. What you don't want is you got to have this flush to the door frame. If it's up like this at all and there's a gap right here, you go to close the door, it'll actually bend the door frame. So make sure this is completely level. Make sure your feet are down and everything, and then you can operate the door easily. Once again, if you want to close it up, you just lift this up, it rotates. You'll push this lever, pull it out, it locks it in, and then you'll go ahead and close your door. Once again, this has a rubber seal. So what you want to do is kind of push it closed. Now it's not completely closed, and if you can hear it close enough, if you push it really hard, you'll hear a little click and it clicks into place. So that's how you want to close the door. And then you want to flip this over when you're traveling like we talked about before. Here is your fresh water fill. So all you do is you're gonna put your garden hose in here, it's gonna fill up. Just watch the gauge inside. You don't wanna overfill the tanks or anything like that. A lot of times people do overfill the tanks. There is a little valve on the top of the tank. If you filled it and there's water dripping like constantly, you probably overfilled the tank and it's actually gonna bleed itself off. It's meant to do that. So just try not to overfill the tanks. As we come around, there is an exterior shower. You do have an exterior power outlet right here. Just remember, any major appliance, air conditioner, power outlets, all that kind of stuff, you need a generator running or to be plugged in at an RV park using shore power. So just be aware of that. One thing I want to get into, this is a very long rear end of a trailer. So just remember, like a teeter-totter goes up and down. If you're all the way in the front and you go up a little bit, that means the back end is going to come way down. So you got to just make sure you're driving carefully and you know where you're driving and things like that. You don't want to get into a situation where you're going over some weird speed bumps or something like that and you could actually scrape the back of the trailer. Here is your second stabilizer jack. This is going to, remember, like we talked about, work both sides of that jack. One will come down, then the other, and then bring them up, okay? As we come around, we're going to talk about the spare tire. Hopefully you don't ever need to use a spare tire, but if you did, it's located right here. Trailers do not have jacks for changing tires. You would actually use the jack from your vehicle to change your tire. Right here in the corner is your power outlet. You just open this up, you're gonna plug right in here, and then the other part goes into the park power pedestal or into a generator if you're using it. One thing we do wanna make sure though is that we get some calls every once in a while that, hey, I've plugged in, nothing works. 99% of the time you plug in an RV park, there's actually a breaker on the park pedestal. The parks don't leave the power constant on all their pedestals. They actually turn them off after a camper leaves. So a lot of times you want to double check that the breaker is actually turned on the pedestal at the park where you're staying. Or a lot of times say everything's running and then all of a sudden you don't have power inside again. Always double check that breaker on the power box at the RV park or wherever you're staying. Most of the time, somehow that's been tripped. Sometimes these parks don't keep the best upkeep on their electrical systems and things like that, so just be aware of that. Right here on the top and on the bottom one is City Water Connect. This is where you would hook a hose in to run water inside the RV. Now, we don't recommend you use that. The plumbing inside an RV is not like your house. They just put plastic fittings together. There's not even glue. They just stick them together. And if you're constantly running water or the water pressure is high, you're gonna actually pop that line loose and it'll flood the inside of the trailer. So just be careful. If you are gonna use that, make sure you get a pressure regulator, water pressure regulator, and use that. And then right up top, right here, is actually a black tank flush connect. So this, if you're cleaning out the black sewage tank, you hook your hose on here, you'll turn the water on, it'll actually clean the inside of the tank and have the stuff come out. Now, you need to make sure if you're running water through the black water tank, you have this valve, the black water tank valve we're gonna talk about in a minute, open. You don't wanna have that closed because if you start filling up the black tank and you forget that's not open, that water is gonna go somewhere and usually up into the trailer. So just be careful. Anytime you're using this, make sure that valve is open. Just remember, the top one is black water, bottom one is city water. Don't get those confused and think you're running city water when you're actually filling up your black tank and you don't realize it. So just be careful, pay attention to these things. And then right here's your hot water heater exhaust. So just make sure this can get really hot, so don't lean against it or anything like that. You shouldn't lean anything against the trailer at all anyways. A lot of times when people walk inside, there's mini vibrations, and if you're leaning something there, it'll scratch through the paint or the decals or something like that. So just be careful. We're gonna talk about dumping. There's a large sewer hose. You're just gonna screw it right on, and then you have two pull valves. You have a black handle and a gray handle. The black handle is actually for the sewage, and then the gray handle is for like the dirty sink water, shower water, all that kind of stuff. So what you do is you put that hose on, you're gonna pull that black valve first, that's the sewage. You're gonna drain that all out, run some water through that black tank with that open like we talked about, the black tank connect. Turn off your water, close that up, and then you can run the gray water. That actually kind of cleans out the hose and drains that all out. Now this has a large slide out. It comes out pretty far, so you wanna make sure you're not parked next to any trees or anything like that. And then just be careful when you're sending it out and bringing it back in. Make sure that nothing is on the floor inside the travel trailer. If you go to close this and there's an ice chest there or something like that, you will damage it. It'll either catch and keep going and tear into the floor, or there's lots of different things that can happen. So just be conscious of all that and just be careful when you're operating the slide. Also double check that there's no debris like a tree branch or anything up close and you try to close it, all that kind of stuff. Just remember, you do need 15 feet of clearance on both sides of the RV, so you shouldn't be driving through any areas that have overhanging brush or anything like that. You're definitely gonna scratch or damage the RV, and we don't want you to do that. All right, so as we come around, the last thing we're gonna talk about is that storage area we talked about on the other side. It comes all the way through, and then this is another access panel for that. Now, we're gonna head inside, and I'm gonna go over how to use the inside of the RV. Let's go. All right, guys, we're gonna go over how to use this RV. This is the main control panel right here. You're gonna have your light switches. You're gonna have your interior, exterior lighting, the slide out, and then the awning control. You also have a nice stereo here. This is kind of the brains of everything. Right up here, you're gonna have like your gauge levels. Just remember, like your fresh water, gray water, black water, all those, they're just guides. They are not 100% accurate. They'll give you maybe an idea of where you're at, but just to beware, a lot of times they're not accurate. So we're gonna go ahead and talk about the main bedroom here. We're gonna go over some of the features in here that we love. First off, you have your light switches right here. And then you have, which is really nice in here, is you have some outlets next to the nightstands on both sides. So you can charge your devices, nice tables there for everything that you need. We're gonna come out and we're gonna talk about the couch configuration and the dining arrangement. As you come around, this is a nice seating area, and you also have your table, your dinette booth here, but what's really cool is these actually convert into beds as well. They're just kind of like Jack and Jill, so you kind of like lift it up here and fold it out. That'll make one surface sleeping area, and then this can actually lift up. You can actually flip it so it faces that way, or you can remove it and have a nice massive sitting area or a massive sleeping area as well. This converts to a bed. All you do is remove the legs. There are some stoppers down here. You're just gonna drop the table, put it on top of the stoppers, and then you just use the cushions here to cover the table, and it makes another large sleeping area. It's really nice. We're gonna talk about the kitchen. First, you have your sink here. We always, like we talked about, always recommend you run the water pump and don't run off city water. This right here is pretty cool. It actually opens up, and underneath there you have a microwave, and then when you're done you can close it up. You also have a 3-burner cooktop. So to use this, you actually just lift it up like this. It's gonna flip back just like that. Just remember, anytime you're traveling or anything, you have this closed completely. Also, don't light the burners. Close this back down and think it's like a glass cooktop or something like that. It is not. These will shatter if they're hot, the glass. So just make sure this cools down, and then before you leave, you're gonna go ahead and flip this back down, lock it into place, and then you're good to go. We're gonna talk about the fridge here. This is an electric fridge. All the controls are right inside the fridge. There's a dial. If you're camping off-grid, there's a mode that just says off-grid, so you'll go ahead and turn that on. Otherwise, you can just turn it to whatever temperature you want. It's just a dial. It's pretty easy. A couple more things we're gonna talk about. It is the thermostat right here. This is gonna control your heater, your air conditioner, and the fan. So you're gonna hold it down, it's gonna light up, and then once it lights up, you can go ahead and push it again and it'll cycle through those modes, and then the up and down buttons are the temperature controls. So it's pretty nice there. You're gonna have some cool AC and some heat in here if you need it. We're gonna talk now about the bathroom. It's a nice bathroom. I'm gonna open it here, and then we're gonna talk first about the GFCI outlet on the wall. Hopefully you never have any power issues, but if you did, you would push the GFCI outlet button just to reset it. You can also, in here is your hot water heater button and control panel. So you'll turn that on. We like to set the temperature at about 103, and then it's just insta hot. It'll come on. It does take about 5 to 10 minutes to heat up, so just be aware of that. And then as we exit here, we're going to talk about the toilet. This is a foot pedal flush toilet. So how these work is you actually hold it halfway down. The bowl will fill up with some water, and then when you're all done, you're going to go ahead and push that down, and it'll completely flush the toilet for you. We do recommend you flush for about 5 to 10 seconds, and RV toilet paper only. No wipes, nothing like that at all. Just RV specific toilet paper. We're going to talk about the back bedroom bunk room here. This is awesome. It's got 2 bunks, and then in the right corner down underneath this cabinet is your breaker panel, kind of like your house would have. Hopefully you never have any issues, but if you're having some electrical issues, a lot of times you want to just double check you didn't trip a breaker. And then you do have this couch here that actually converts into a queen bed. You just kind of lift it up and unfold it and lay it on the ground, and that, like I said, turns into a queen bed. So this trailer is fantastic. It's pretty amazing. It's got some really cool features, and it's actually one of my newest favorites. So if you have any questions, let us know, and then we'll see you soon.